Arizona straight to the line. There's the snap to Murray. Murray looks left, pumps once, looking. A lot of time. Now he throws, and it's intercepted by the Lions. Picked off down the left sideline. Oruwariye picks up a block at the 30, 25, 20, Amani 10, 5, and he's spun out of bounds right there. I see you, 24. I see you.
Welcome to another edition of the Twentyman in the Huddle podcast. I am joined by Seth Ryan, the assistant Lions wide receiver coach. And Seth, welcome to the pod. Thanks for taking the time. I know you guys are busy fitting me in between meetings and practices and all that stuff, so I really appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem.
Now, you started as a coaching intern and an offensive quality control coach working with wide receivers for the Chargers, correct?
Correct.
How was that? Obviously, that's a pretty talented group, some veteran guys there, and to maybe cut your teeth in the NFL with a group of some proven guys there. Just how much did that kind of jumpstart your knowledge of coaching that position?
I was blessed to be in a room that was very veteran. Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, Travis Benjamin, they were each had at least 4 or 5 years. Keenan had like 6 by the time I got there, so it helped a lot because I learned a lot of like route teach and stuff from them, from their years of experience, which kind of helped me as I started my career, which really helped me take over the room when I was in 2020.
Yeah.
When our receiver coach had to leave for personal reasons, I had to step in and become the coach, and that kind of helped because I already had that relationship with them. I knew kind of how they saw routes and how they saw coverages, kind of helped me begin my process.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of the football stuff, I just gotta ask now, what is it like growing up in a historic football family? Obviously, if you don't know out there, Seth is the son of Rex Ryan, obviously former head coach in the NFL, TV personality, but you've been involved in football your whole life, and just what was it like kind of growing up in that football family, that football atmosphere?
To me, it's the only thing I know. So This is normal to me. That's not normal to a lot of other people, but I grew up on the sidelines I went to my dad's practices all the time. When I was a kid, I was running around. I was a ball boy for Matt Stover, Sam Cook when he was a rookie. So I've just been around it, and it comes with a little bit of pressure because you had to, when you're growing up, everybody expects you to be
right,
that guy in football and all that kind of stuff. You're supposed to be the smartest one and all this, so it added a little bit of pressure. But to me, I expected to be here, so this is just what I expected to be. This is all I know.
What do you remember as maybe the coolest moment growing up?
I would say probably one of the coolest moments was probably my relationship with Mark Sanchez when he got drafted by my dad. It was his first pick. We kind of became like, he was like my older brother. He came to a lot of my football games.
Oh, really?
We had a really good relationship. So I thought that was, probably one of the coolest moments of, my childhood, was getting to kind of be around him and knowing him more personal and than just like the whole football experiences.
Before you get into coaching, obviously you're a football player first, and what a terrific football career you have. Just explain your college journey of being part of one of the greatest kind of runs there in college history at Clemson, where you guys won a national championship and obviously had a ton of success there. Just what was that experience like?
It was it helped me a lot too as I prepared for my career, but the experiences were unbelievable. I lost I think 7 games in my career there, and 5 of them were my first 2 years. And then, when I started playing more and, contributing, we had, only 2 losses, and with Deshaun, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
One thing I kind of took from it was, how our team approached every single week was, this is the biggest game of the year. Didn't matter who it was. And you kind of learned that, and Coach Swinney, I'm a huge supporter of Coach Swinney. I love Coach Swinney. And one thing, he had thousands of messages. He could talk.
Yeah.
But one thing that kind of always rang with me was, this is the biggest game of the year. It's like, and if you don't believe it, lose it and see what happens. So,
is that something that's always stuck with you then, now that you've transitioned to coaching?
Yeah.
And then just was the coaching kind of, you get done with your playing career in college, awesome career. So, where's the ring, by the way? The national championship ring? Do you
I got
ever
it
just
safe.
kind of? Oh, it's in safe. You
Oh, it's
ever
in a
just
safe.
like throw it on sometime and
Absolutely
no,
not.
it just stays
Nope,
in the
it
safe.
stays in the safe.
So you get done playing, and is this coaching bug just kind of inside you, or did it develop, or kind of how did you first start getting into coaching?
I would say I probably started getting into coaching really my senior year of college. I kind of, when I was approached by Coach Jeff Scott, he was kind of talking, about my role for the season, and I knew I was going to be doing what I was doing special teams wise, and I was going to be on the varsity for the receivers, basically as like an emergency in case just everybody gets hurt. Like, you got to play.
Yeah.
So
You did hold though, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So that was my reason why I got on the
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
So, but he was like, hey, I kind of want you to help out a lot with those freshmen, because they won't be able to ask me all these questions on the
Right.
field. I want you to kind of take over some of that mentorship.
Okay.
And I really, I took that. And so I was always talking with the freshmen, like, hey, this is how you want to release. This is where the pattern. This is why you need to do this. That kind of started the whole.
You were an extension of the coaching staff, almost player coach.
Right.
And those guys are so valuable.
Yeah. And, we always had talks in the receiver room, and our coach was like, hey, every one of the person in this room is going to be in the NFL, whether you're going to be a player. And then he looked at me and was like, you ain't going to play. You going to coach, but you ain't going to play. I was like, yeah, I got that. No worries.
So if not coaching, what would you be doing right now? Could you even imagine, fathom? What'd you get your degree in?
Parks, Recreation, Tourism Management.
Okay.
Half my team was in that major.
A love of the outdoors, or was
No.
there something else motivated by that?
No,
there, Seth?
motivation was I want to get the degree. But I don't know. I've really haven't had much of a backup plan, and that's
It was meant
not
to be.
great. And I was just fortunate enough that this has worked out so far.
It's in your blood, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
in your blood.
Yeah.
So last year, your first year working with a specific position group, just as the season went on, just how much did you love that aspect of it, being with kind of that individual room and having that room and just the fun of that?
It's having a season like we did is always tough.
Yeah.
But I think one of the best things about that room is the chemistry. It didn't matter how many wins or losses were, everybody was the same person every day. Like, you would have never noticed that we only had 3 wins because everybody came in like, hey, we're going to get it this week. Everybody had a positive attitude, went to work every single day, busted their balls every day trying to get as best they possibly could for the next game.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've always appreciated, because it's not like that everywhere you go. Guys come in, there are certain guys that have attitudes, and they don't want to work because we're not winning.
When you're 0-10.
When you're 0-10, and everyone wants to point the finger, but that's where I noticed the difference between, here and why I think this is going to change is because nobody pointed the finger at anybody. It was, hey, this is a team, we did not win, not this guy didn't make this play, this didn't, it was collectively as a group. Everybody just like, all right, we're going to the next one.
And is that something that you can point to as to why we saw such an improvement from the first half of the year to the second half of the year to, that the guys having that mentality of, hey, let's just keep working. Mm-hmm. And eventually this thing's going to start to click. And we saw when Dan took over play calling and Ben was elevated to that pass game coordinator role. Obviously getting Josh was huge and kind of what he brought to the outside. Mm-hmm. But then it just started to click, right? Yeah. And is that what you're talking about in terms of just that mentality and how you can see it flip, and hopefully now you guys just kind of pick up right where you left off?
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just, everything that Coach Campbell had been preaching from the beginning, that, hey, it's going to be tough to, but we're going to keep pushing, we're going to keep fighting every single time. And then eventually, he's like, I know it's going to come back and it's going to click, because, like, we have to lay the foundation first. The house ain't just built. You have to lay all the foundation, the concrete to get it started, and that's what we did. And then we started to put the frame up at the end of the season. That's what I looked at it. I'm like, all right. So now this year I was like, well, we got to pick up exactly where we left off. That's what I think.
What is it like working with Antwaan Randle?
Oh, he's an Energizer bunny.
I bet. Can you even match that energy?
No.
It's got to be tough. You have to drink like 7 cups of coffee in the morning just to match that energy,
absolutely.
right?
But, hey, one thing I'm just truly glad to be working with him is he's always positive, always super excited about practice, meetings, just bringing tons of positive energy, which is good, especially, and it's needed in this situation because you don't win every week, but you don't want to come in Monday and just Debbie Downer, negative. It makes the workplace a lot worse, and it makes it really tough and negative. Where he comes in as real positive, that it takes morale up, and I really like working with him.
So you mentioned the value in kind of becoming that player coach at Clemson your last year and really working with those freshmen. What do you think is your biggest asset to that room now? What do you think you bring to the table that kind of
here?
Yeah, here.
Yeah, I would say my biggest asset is I bring a lot of experience from a very successful offense.
Yeah.
With very successful receivers. So I think, like, hey, I talk with Elle, before meetings and stuff, like, hey, this is kind of how we did it, how we ran it this route, like use this stem and all this. And Ben, very similar. We come from very similar offenses and thoughts. So I think that kind of like helps in that regard. And, I've always like in the room, anytime there's any questions or anything or, try to like, how can I help the players remember it, like in the teaching process,
yeah.
Or if there's any questions or stump bumps, I can always make sure I've got the the right answer for them. That's what I think my biggest asset is.
Ben, you mentioned Ben Johnson, the new offensive coordinator, young guy but really bright, has got a lot of experience working with a lot of really talented minds in the NFL, and I guess maybe just first impressions of him in this role. To me, he seems like a terrific teacher. Mm-hmm. That's probably one. Just a really smart guy who can relate to players and is a good teacher. Just how would you describe kind of the first few months here working with him and under his guidance of kind of establishing this new offense here in Detroit?
Ben is extremely detailed. Everything has a reason behind it. Everything has a teaching way to do it. Everything has built, off something else. So it's like, we have these 6 plays. They're all from the same family. Here's the difference. Here's how all this. Everything was laid out. That was like the first couple months, and it was, really, really detailed. And, it demands a lot out of the players and as the coaches too, which.
You've got to like that.
Right. I was like, I'd rather have that, I feel like we have so much, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet with his offense. And just this, this summer, I'm like, well, I'm excited for what we're going to do in camp because I'm like, well, we're just going to keep building off what we already have.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where, like, I really like that. And I'm like, well, each formation has 10 different plays. They're all off the same thing. We got to do the same exact look.
Yeah.
Like, that helps. It makes it tough for defenses.
100%.
Because you can't just,
hey, they're lined up here. We know this is coming.
This is
right.
Exactly.
And
like they do this.
Calling out play. Yeah, calling
right.
out. Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, we do this same motion. Well, we got 10 plays off that same motion for that week, for that day. That's what I really, really like about this offense.
That's awesome. You have to really, really, really like the depth that you've got in that wide receiver room now, too. I see you smiling. Obviously, you went and get a veteran guy in DJ Chark, right? Mm-hmm. A guy who was a 1,000-yard receiver in this league. Terrific experience. 6'4", 4'3" guy, right? Can get downfield, get those 50-50 balls, and then you get Jameson Williams. You move up in the draft, you get him. I think it was 4 touchdowns of 60, 70 plus yards last year, and 11 of 30 plus, right? That deep threat. You re-sign Josh Reynolds, re-sign Khalif, guys who were instrumental late last year and really helping you guys win some ball games. And obviously St. Brown, when you look at it and you hear that, you've got to love where that wide receiver room is just in terms of talent, depth, and the collective skill set, right?
Yeah. I think this is a very complimentary room. DJ, he's got size and speed. Josh is very fluid and he's got some size. Saint is one of the best slots, I think, in the league. He's tough, physical. Leaf, he can do a lot of the deep threat stuff right now, while Jameson's hurt, and he's really savvy route runner.
Right.
And then you have Jameson Williams, who we haven't seen yet really in the NFL, but from his college film is extremely explosive.
Yeah.
Tom Kennedy is a veteran slot receiver. Q is a tough physical possession receiver. TB's got some speed. Like this, every single one guy has a certain role that builds in this offense. It makes it very tough for coaches to make sure we try and get all these guys the footballs because they've all earned it and they're doing everything we're asking. But I think this room is going to help Goff a lot more this year, because we have a more branched out room, more explosive room than we did the previous year. And
then you couple that with what could be potentially a top 5 offensive line if those guys stay healthy, right?
Absolutely.
You've got a Pro Bowl at tight end. DeAndre Swift is one of the most explosive running backs, especially in the passing game, that this league has. It just, when you look at it collectively, Seth, and I'm talking with Seth Ryan, the assistant wide receivers coach, when you look at this collectively, you've got to be pretty excited about what you guys got from a skill position standpoint, don't you? And just how this offense is coming together as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still a lot we got to work on, and to where we're all clicking on 8 cylinders by the time we roll into the first game. But yeah, having that offensive line, that Pro Bowl offensive line, helps a lot, for just top to bottom.
Yeah,
that's something that was, not every team is fortunate to have, where you have 2 legit tackles, the best, arguably the best center in the league, and a Pro Bowl guard, and then
a guy who started the Super Bowl at left tackle, who's now transitioned to guard and had a terrific season last year. Yeah,
you're like, well, you don't. It's hard. You can't find really a weakness in that line, so it makes you can run. What kind of runs you can do? Well, you can do all of them because you have very versatile guards that can pull and all this. You have
now we're talking about play action then, right? And just everything else opens up, and
that helps a ton. Swift, extremely dynamic, and he can do a lot of things. Passing game, he's a pretty good runner as well. Jamal can power back. They complement each other very well. Craig Reynolds is the same way.
Yeah.
It's a very complementary room as well. That's why I'm starting. That all this offense being built, I believe, in the right way, because everybody complements each other.
Jared Goff, we talked to him this offseason. Obviously, you get a very close look at it. He said he was, really comfortable with some of the things that him and Ben got together with this offseason, kind of created some things that he really enjoyed doing from his time with the Rams when they were really successful, and kind of having some input in the offense. From your perspective, I know from the outside looking at the open sessions, he looked really comfortable and kind of really in control of some of the tempo stuff. And we all know he could sling it. He's a number 1 overall pick, but just where you think Jared Goff is this offseason, obviously comfortable now in his second year. It looked that way to me, at least.
Yeah, I would say this year Goff looks much more comfortable. He just seems much more in control. Last year I didn't see that as much, but this year I see, changing protections, getting the wideouts in the right spots. That's something that I kind of learned from Phillip Rivers, who now Phillip was a different style, but telling the receivers all the time, hey, you listen to the quarterback.
Yeah.
I know we say one thing, but if that quarterback tells you something else, listen to him, because he's the one throwing the ball. So you got to make sure you guys are on the same page.
Taking onus of it, it sounds like. He really is taking onus of every aspect of this offense.
And just kind of my experience, if a quarterback likes a certain thing, he's going to make it work.
Yeah.
If he's like, I wanted to run it like this, it's going to make it work. So you got to listen to those for some things.
All right, you said something that maybe have gone off, but it stuck with me. I'm not going to let it slide. You said Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. That's pretty high praise, Seth, from a rookie guy. And obviously we know the success he had with the 90 catches and 900 yards and the touchdowns and everything else, the 6 straight games with 8+ catches. That's pretty lofty praise for a young man. He just seems like a different kind of cat, though, right? With the physicality and the work ethic and just wanting to be great. That seems like a terrific find as the 17th wide receiver taken in the draft last year, right?
Couldn't agree more. I look at him, just for guys in the room, he reminds me a lot of Keenan Allen, with the same kind of play style, same physicality, same work ethic. They have very, very similar traits.
Hold on, you've just excited a lot of Lions fans out there, but they're already excited because he is a terrific player.
Yeah.
I mean, he just is. The physical part of it, how much do you love that aspect of his game?
Absolutely love it. I mean, it's watching him, block, dive in there, block linebackers, safeties. That's hard to find in receivers. Receivers, they'll go and block safeties. They'll do that, but like Saint's looking to take your head off, which the whole offense really appreciates. Like linemen watch it, they see it. Running backs, it makes a running back say, well, if he's gonna stick his neck out for me, I gotta make sure I pick up this blitz so he can get the football on third down. It's something that's not taken lightly upstairs, and I think one of the big reasons why we were having to give him the football a lot at the end of the year was you're watching him block. Like, well, I mean, he's going to do that. We got to get him the ball.
Yeah.
And, I look at, I see Keenan Allen Jarvis, and Jarvis was the same way as well. He was looking to, take a safety's head off as well.
Yeah. It just seems like he's one of those security blanket type guys. Is that the best way to describe him? The quarterbacks like to have that guy. Normally it's a tight end, right? With Travis Kelce, with Mahomes, we see a lot. Stuff breaks down, get in trouble. Who's that guy? Seems to me like Saint can be that kind of guy, because as a quarterback, you can always expect him to be in the right spot, right? He's tough, and he just finds a way to make a play.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. To me, that slot receiver's got to be that. Wes Welker was that with Tom Brady, same with Edelman. They're always open, or even if they're not, the quarterback's going to throw it to him because he trusts that he's going to make the play. I see that with Saint. He's third down. I know I got this route to Saint. I'm just going to find a way to get him the ball because he's going to make the play for me.
How much has the added speed on the outside, how much is that a different maker for your offense? And talking about Chark with the 4.3 and the size, and then obviously Jameson Williams, who I asked after he's drafted, he obviously couldn't run at the combine, but I asked him, hey, if you would have ran at the combine, what would you have wrote without a break? He's like, I would have set the record. But when you watch on tape, that speed is real. Yeah. Just what is that speed on the outside? How much is that a difference maker for you guys offensively?
It is a huge difference maker, because you have to tell, to us, if you put him on the outside and it's one-on-one, I'm like, well, it's going to him. You want to dictate the coverage. Somebody's got to play over the top of him because they're scared that he's going to run by him. You watch guys like Tyreek Hill, they always get some form of cover 2 over the top of them because they're afraid of that speed. It makes it tough for defenses, especially with the way we run the football. So I'm like, well, if he's playing the boundary and they got cover 2, well, we can run it.
Yeah.
That's what you try to do as an offense, is how can we dictate their coverage. And I think that opens up, because now somebody else is going to be open because they don't get all the coverage if it's rolled over to him, rolled over to DJ. That's what you try. That's what we were trying to build with this offense.
And it seems to me like you've got those other pieces that can step up, right? I mean, if the coverage is rolled over to DJ or JMO, you've got St. Brown, who can win a one-on-one matchup. You've got TJ Hockenson, a Pro Bowl tight end, who can win a one-on-one matchup. DeAndre Swift is a terror in the passing game in the middle. Matchup against a linebacker, good luck.
Yeah,
exactly. And so it just seems like you guys really are in a position now, because of that speed, to maybe dictate what you can do with one-on-one matchups and really use that to your benefit.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And, for us, the challenge is, on the outside, when you get one-on-one, like, hey, you got to win. Like, this is what you dream of, This is what you want. You want this kind of coverage. And as a receiver, as a former receiver, I was like, well, if you're going to play me one-on-one, like, I got to win that 80% of the time.
Yeah.
That's my goal. I got to win 100% of the time, because it's disrespect that you got to play some kind of coverage to me. So I think if you have that kind of battle, that kind of competitive edge, I think it makes a huge difference for us as an offense.
One thing I've noticed, and TJ's done it, obviously the first few years he's been here, but I noticed this spring you guys kind of standing him up, lining him outside a lot more, kind of a lot more motions and kind of moving guys around. Is that part of the offense here that's been added, just being a little bit more versatile with guys? And how important is it for your receivers to know all those spots, the Z, the X, the Y, all those different positions?
I say knowing, for a receiver standpoint, knowing all 3 positions, it is extremely important. There is not one guy that should be playing just one position. Saint played all 4. He played 3 wideout positions, he played the Y, and he played the back last year. You have to know the entire offense, because at any time you can play any one of those positions. For L, on game day, if we lose DJ, somebody else has got to go play the X, someone else has got to go play the Z. we lose Saint, somebody has to go play the slot. Like somebody's got to know all these spots, and that's the only way to get in. You only dress 5 guys. You got your 3 starters. It's like, well, those 4 and 5 got to help on teams, and they got to know all 3 positions because any one of those guys, you
got to be able to step in.
You got to be able to step up in case something happens.
Does he have that skill set that he can stand up and do some of those things?
Oh, yeah.
And how advantageous is it to have a tight end like that can not only play in line and can block, but can also be kind of that receiving threat, a la the Wallers, Kelce's, Pitts of the leagues. He seems to be like he's in that category, and it could be fun if he gets a lot more single coverage than he did last year too.
Oh yeah, I think he has a very unique skill set. There's not many tight ends that have that. Like you mentioned, the Kelce's, the Kittles, Wallers, Pitts, they all have those kind of very similar skill sets. Mm-hmm. And I think he, can be in that category because of his skills. And, he should be thinking the same way a receiver does. If I get one-on-one, I should win that every time.
The depth that you have at wide receiver, we talked about it, but 2 guys specifically who I thought, had pretty good springs. Quintez, Cephus, third-year guy who unfortunately was having a terrific start to last year, hurt the collarbone in Minnesota week 5, and you kind of lost him. And Trinity Benson, a guy you traded for right before the season started, but admittedly kind of dumped a lot on his plate. It was more thinking than playing, and as you know, you just slow down. You can't go out there and play fast when that's the case. But 2 guys who I thought had a pretty good spring, and now you're talking about, when you look at the depth in that room, maybe number 6, number 7. First, that should make you smile that guys like that are that far down in the depth. But just how much are you looking forward to the competition there, and maybe speaking specifically to those 2 guys and the opportunity they have to maybe kind of seize one of those last spots in that room?
I mean, I'm very excited for the competition. I think competition brings out the best in people, and it also brings out the worst. So for me, if somebody doesn't feel secure in their spot, but they come out and they work even harder, like, all right, cool, we're going to get the best player out of this, and he'll be ready for game 1, be ready for Philly. If he looks at competition and he's like, and he just gives a negative attitude, I'm like, well, that's not the guy we want.
Yeah.
I don't see that with either one of our guys, with Q or TB. I think that it's done nothing but help them. I think Trinity has made a huge improvement from last year. I think he was probably, when me and Al looked at it, probably the most improved from year 1 to year 2, just from the spring.
Yeah.
Because he looks, night and day difference.
He does.
Faster, getting out of his routes. He's not thinking as much as he was. Mm-hmm. So, I'm excited to see him in training camp when the pads come on. I think Q has always been better in pads than he is in shorts. And he looked good in shorts OTAs and stuff. So because he's a more physical guy.
Yeah.
But one thing Q can make some plays on the outside.
Yeah.
So he makes some.
And we saw it early last year. We saw it his rookie year when he averaged 17.5 yards per reception.
Oh yeah. Q is, I would say, like, he's very sneaky fast. Because that 40 that he ran at the combine, it hurt his draft stock. But I remember watching him when he was at Wisconsin, and I did not think he was that slow. I thought he played a lot faster than that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a shock to me. But when I came over here and I started watching this film, I was like, 87. I was like, that's Quintez Cephus? And I'm like, oh wow, yeah, he looks much faster than what he ran, and that's I'd rather have that.
100%. Yeah. Seth, there is a difference between tracks, like 40 speed and game speed, right? And football speed. I guess how would you easily explain the difference to that? I mean, some guys maybe just aren't trained to run a straight line well, but when you put them in pads, when you have 11 guys chasing them, when they get it and they know they just need a step to go, some guys just have that gear, right? And is Quintez one of those guys?
Yeah, 100%. He's got game speed. He looks better, faster in games. He was still separating downfield his rookie year. Yeah, like I said, 17 yards per catch. Than he was in that 40. Like, I look at the 40 as verification.
Okay.
Like, okay, I see what I saw on film. Or I'm like, oh, he looks faster on the film than he does in the 40. All right, well, you know what? I'm going to go off the film.
Yeah.
I always err on the side of looking at the film. If he, looks real slow and then runs a 4.3, the 4, I'm like, all right, something's not right. maybe he's thinking too much. That's how I see it.
Gotcha. So before we finish up here, you obviously seem very excited about everything with this wide receiver group, talent, depth, everything else. Just how good can this room be if they stay healthy, you guys stay healthy up front, right? And this offense kind of develops and forms through training camp the way you hope it does. Just how explosive can that room be, and just how much fun can this team be to watch offensively, come week 1, week 2, first month of the season?
I think this offense will be much more fun to watch. I think we're going to use our guys to their best abilities. What do they do best? What are the routes that these guys run best, and use them that way? It's a lot of what we did at the Chargers. Well, what are Keenan Allen's top 5 routes? Well, these are his top 5. Okay, how can we get those on each play? In the same way we're doing it here. What do they run best? Well, let's get them on these routes.
Yeah.
I think this can be a much more explosive offense than last year. A lot of the stuff that we were doing, we weren't taking downfield chances, and I think one of our focuses this offseason, under Ben, is we got to be more explosive.
Yeah.
We got to be more explosive if we want to be a top 10 offense. That's what we want to be. Every team in the NFL wants to be in those top 5, those top 10. I think we have that chance. But again, we still got a lot of work to do this camp.
I know you guys are excited to hear that. Just more explosive downfield. It should be fun running the football. That's a fun wide receiver group. I know it's one of the groups I'll be looking forward to watching come training camp. Seth, really appreciate you joining the pod. That was great stuff. We'll be back with you guys next week.